feel like it's really hard to think about when I first had anxiety, because I think I maybe always had it, but I didn't know that that's what it was. So I would get really stressed about exams at school, and I would be worried about making the wrong choice of going to uni, and then when I was at uni, how I was going to do, and then how I was going to get a job afterwards. But they just, in my mind at the time, seemed like normal life anxieties. It wasn't probably until my late 20s that it became what felt then to me like a real problem. I remember I was living up in Leeds, so I was away from my family, and even though I had really good friends there, the job that I was in, I wasn't that happy in it. I was worried that I was going to lose my job because I'm self-employed, I work contract to contract, so it was then a kind of, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? I had a lot of other things going on at the time, and there was one day that I got home from work and had a panic attack. And that was the day that I was like, this is your body trying to say to you, this anxiety is a problem and you need to do something about it. And so I went to my doctors. They were actually really good, and they gave me some temporary medication to help with the panic attacks, but they also recommended that I go and see a counsellor, the waiting list for which was ridiculous. And so I went privately to go and see a therapist, and she was amazing. So it was kind of a mixture of cognitive behaviour therapy and transactional analysis, and both of which really helped. And so it then got to the point where I feel like, and I still feel like, I'll never not live with anxiety. It will always be part of me. But it then gave me some tools to help. I then, a couple of years after that, started getting into yoga, which was an amazing escape for me, because in the time that I was doing hot yoga as well, which is like super intense. And so at the time that I was doing it, that for me was, you can't think about anything else. It would give me that time to switch off, decompress, and I would feel like I left like full of the joys of spring, even if before going in I was like super stressed or anxious about something. Started meditating as well, which again definitely helped me. And so there are still times in my life now that I struggle. One of the times that kind of stands out as a particularly bad one recently was at my wedding. Everyone said to me, oh, you'll feel anxious beforehand, you'll be stressed that you haven't got everything ready, but then once you're there and doing it, it'll be fine. And generally, in other times of my life when my anxiety has been like that, so it's, nervous because I'm hosting an event or doing something out of my comfort zone, then once I'm doing it, I am fine. But for whatever reason, on the day of the wedding, that kind of zing of anxiety just didn't go, to the point where in the evening, it didn't help either that I wore a ridiculously tight dress. Very bad idea if you are a person who suffers with anxiety and has previously suffered panic attacks. Don't wear a tight dress. I was wearing a tight dress, and it got to a point kind of later in the evening, and I just felt so panicky that I had to leave the party. The venue that we were at had like an upstairs bit that was closed off to everybody else. Went upstairs with my husband and just had to lie on the floor because I thought I was going to have a panic attack. And when I remember back to that now, it's a bit of a blur, because I remember my husband being there and he was just kind of reassuring me, it's okay. And then next thing I know, my sister was there, who is also amazing at, both of them are great at kind of helping me to come out of it. And my sister was like, right, this is ridiculous, get that dress off, we'll take you back to the room. All I'd got was a t-shirt, jeans and trainers in the room that I'd arrived at the venue in. So I had to go back down to my wedding at about 11 p.m. in a t-shirt, jeans and trainers, but then I could have a nice time. So it was worth it in the end. But I needed somebody else because I'd gone into illogical panicky brain, and I needed somebody else to go, it's fine, who gives a stuff what everybody else thinks, put your scruffy t-shirt, jeans and trainers on and go and enjoy your wedding. After I had that first panic attack, I knew that I needed to ask for help and go to the doctors. I really didn't want to do it. It made me feel like I had somehow failed, like, you know, I must be doing something wrong if I can't just deal with everyday life. And I remember sitting, I even now I do it sometimes when my anxiety's bad, I'll go, oh, I'll ring the doctor tomorrow and go and see them. And then I'm like, oh, no, I feel better today, I won't do it. But I made myself do it. And as uncomfortable as it was, I know now that it's not about being a failure, and it's not about not being good enough or all of these other insecurities and fears that kind of creep out in that time. But when I'm in it, that is how it feels. If I had to give advice to someone who was maybe going through a similar thing or felt like they had a concern about their mental health, the first thing I would say is talk to somebody who you love and who you know loves you, because they will want to do everything in their power to reassure you that it's okay and it's going to be okay. And the more you can talk to people, whether that be, you know, seek medical advice if you think that you need to seek medical advice, but even just talking openly about the feelings that you have. The amount of times people have said to me, oh my God, but you're so confident. Look at the jobs that you do. You can't be anxious. There's no way you're anxious. You're not an anxious person. And I'm like, yeah, because on the outside, I'm like, but on the inside, I'm not always like that. And so as soon as you talk about it, then somebody else will go, oh my God, well, I suffer from anxiety as well. And then I feel better because I go, well, thank God I'm not alone, because when you're in it, you sometimes feel so alone and stupid and ridiculous for having all these feelings. But then as soon as somebody else says to you, I have that same thing as well, you're like, oh, I'm not that weird after all, I'm all right.